Making radio great again. Todd Starnes.
All right, on the newsmaker line, one of my favorites, Ann Coulter. Ann, what in the world is going on in Washington?
Oh gosh, if that's what you're asking me, I have no idea. It's baffling. I assume you mean the
Steve
Bannon.
Yeah, Steve Bannon and the president going at it. I just don't understand this little dust up, this squabble.
You know, it occurred to me in the middle of the night that the whole thing was cooked up because obviously this is going to be a huge book for liberals. It's the first intellectually satisfying anti-Trump book. In fact, they haven't really had any books for a while. So this is going to be a blockbuster. And I mean, from what I've read of the excerpts, some seems true, some seems clearly false. Not that I'm not accusing the author of being intentionally misleading, but I mean, I just know from my own experience, which is why, and don't tell reporters this, but I kind of insist on being interviewed by email, and I'll email them right back. But I don't think most of them, I can't imagine a reporter going in and changing, instead of just copying and pasting, changing words of something I've typed up. I did an interview with Glenn Thrush, now at the New York Times. He was at Politico at the time, just in 2016, when I was promoting In Trump We Trust. And he tape recorded the entire interview, but then I read his write-up on it, and there were a couple of really egregious misquotes, including one that had me attacking someone in the White House whom I absolutely did not attack. Luckily, he attached a transcript of the entire interview, and I could email him and say, you got these two things wrong, and it makes me look really bad. Could you please correct them? So that's someone even, not intentionally trying to misquote me, but that does happen a lot. Plus, which if you read this book, there are a lot of conversations, private conversations that he obviously wasn't, Michael Wolff, the author, was not present for. I doubt anyone at the conversation was tape recording it. So obviously there's a lot of literary license here where he's recreating conversations that didn't have. And I'd also point out that the book review editor of the Washington Post posted a column last night questioning Wolff's credibility. But why the big? I mean, the Russia business from Bannon. It's crazy, and I can't imagine him or any sane person saying that. I can barely imagine a pussy hat wearing leftist saying it. And that's the meeting with Don Jr. Sure, I mean, there some of it's true. Yeah, of course it would have been better to say, no, I'm not going to meet with you in Trump Tower. Here, go meet with our lawyers in a hotel. Manifestly, that would have been better. Compare that to what Hillary Clinton did. That's exactly what Hillary Clinton did, spending $12 million directly sending it to the Russians to get dirt on Donald Trump. So give me a break that there's some underlying crime here. But how does Hillary do it? She has a cutout law firm. The cutout law firm pays Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS gets Michael Steele to pay the Russians. But ultimately, it was Hillary Clinton campaigns and the DNC's $12 million that ended up in the pockets of various random Russian officials for dirt on Donald Trump. So yeah, obviously what Bannon allegedly said about sending lawyers to meet with anyone with dirt on Hillary would have been better. But as for it being treasonous, well, for Pete's sake, I mean, Hillary should be facing the death penalty then now. So I was wondering, are Trump and Bannon just trying to lure leftists into reading this book because somehow it humanizes Trump, or there's some detail that's very important to read? I haven't read the book yet. It's
well, apparently you're in there too, Ann. One of the excerpts details a conversation they say you had with the president about Jared Kushner and the chief of staff. Is that accurate?
I was curious about that, how he could have gotten it. I mean, it's a private conversation, and luckily for me, everything I say to people privately, I generally also say publicly. So I'm telling the truth. No different advice for different people. It wasn't specifically about Jared. It is it is true. I mean, now that it's been published, I hadn't told anyone. I certainly hadn't told any reporters. At first, when Trump was first elected, and he was talking about hiring his kids. First, I tried to get. I don't know in what order, but Stephen Miller, my friend Peter Thiel, you got to tell Trump he can't hire his kids. You can't do it. That is what fascist governments do. They get into power and instantly fire everyone who is not their relative and hire everyone who is their relative. No, that isn't how democracy works in this country. Americans hate nepotism. You can't do it. You can't do it. And every one of them said to me, yeah, and I can't tell him that. And so when I talked to him, I began by saying, no one else will tell you this, Mr. President-elect, but you can't hire your kids. You can't do it. And by the way, he said he does listen to people. I mean, a lot of the descriptions of him, he's clearly not crazy. He's obviously highly intelligent. He clearly has his finger on the pulse of Americans. And one thing that at least from my experience, is very untrue is that he absolutely listens to people. The funny thing was, he said, "Yeah, you're right. No one else is telling me that."
Yeah, I mean, look, and the Michael Wolff has an essay in Hollywood Reporter today, and I think this is ultimately, this is where they're going with all of these sordid stories. The last sentence, he's talking about how the entire White House staff, 100% is what he writes, believe that Trump is incapable of functioning in his job. He says at Mar-a-Lago just before the new year, Trump was in heavy makeup, and he failed to recognize the succession of old friends. They're making it out to be like he has Alzheimer's or he's senile or something.
Yes, and I mean, obviously this is nonsense, but I do kind of give Trump some of the blame here. He's brought in a lot of never-Trumpers to his administration. And one of the things that comes out, at least in some of the excerpts I've read, was that, the people around Trump, when he wins the presidency, oh, well, and I've heard this before, if it were Ted Cruz, he'd have the whole, Heritage Foundation. And if it were Marco Rubio, he'd have, I don't know, whoever the neocons are, but who are the nationalist populists? And, screw you. You could have filled every one of these positions with someone who was a genuine Trumpster, and you didn't. So what a surprise. I mean, there's one really, what's his name, Paul Nunberg or something, really nasty quote about, I went in to teach him about the Constitution, but by the time I got to the Fourth Amendment, he had his finger in his mouth, and his eyes were blinking or rolling back in his head or something. I don't know who this Paul Nunberg is, but he's a jerk, and he should never have been any place near Trump. He should not be in the White House. But from what I can tell, I mean, I object to this as a Trumpster. Why aren't you hiring the people who can get done the stuff you promised to get done? No, and Nikki Haley at the UN? I mean, for Pete's sake, her response to the State of the Union address in 2016 when Trump was running right after the travel ban, first, President Obama gives his State of the Union address, in which he attacks Donald Trump for the Muslim ban. And then Nikki Haley gives her response, in which is 100% attacking Donald Trump for the Muslim ban suggestion. Oh, here, she's going to be one of my first appointments. Well, if that's what you're going to do, you're going to have a lot of people saying BS-y, nasty things about you. So he is not completely innocent of what's going on here. The Bannon thing is what has everyone confused, and I don't know. I have to assume this is some sort of misquote, because I like I say, these a lot of the quotes are obviously not direct quotes, and again, this is no slam on the author. He's trying to make it a readable book and recapture probably the way he's guessing the conversation went. But even honest reporters trying to get a tape-recorded conversation exactly right are going to make all kinds of errors that can actually, in the end, make a big difference.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, though, if I was misquoted that badly, I would have been holding a press conference from the steps of the Capitol building. I mean, that's really outrageous. What's your advice to Steve here? What does he need to do? What does he need to do?
Well, I mean, I guess I'd need to know what the truth of the matter is. I mean, that's why I say, woke up in the middle of the night thinking, are they trying to get people to read this book because there's something in it they really want to get out? Are they trying to distract from something? I mean, that's been done before. Remember, Trump started tweeting nasty, I mean, this was last year, started tweeting nasty things about Attorney General Jeff Sessions and threatening to fire him the day Jared Kushner was testifying before Congress. No one knew that Jared Kushner had been called to testify before Congress because the entire media was about Trump trolling his own attorney general. So, I mean, they have done things like that before. It just seems like there has to be a bigger picture. I mean, Trump's response, I think it's worth not letting the history on this be misportrayed. Trump's response went on and on attacking Bannon for his participation in the Alabama race. That is backing Moore, and said, "Oh, you're such a loser, and you cost us that race." No. Let's get the facts straight here. There was one immigration patriot running for Sessions' seat in Alabama. Mo Brooks, magnificent member of Congress. He was being viciously attacked. Mitch McConnell spent millions of dollars to defeat this good Republican who's, if anything, he's better than Sessions on immigration. He's been absolutely fantastic in the House. I endorsed him. I did lots of radio down there. Everybody I know endorsed him. But no, Mitch McConnell wanted Trump to endorse Luther Strange.
That's right.
Jared Kushner wanted Trump to endorse Luther Strange. He endorses this disaster. I mean, he's jab exclamation point rolled into Rubio. That's who Trump endorsed. He's the one who cost us that Senate seat. I went back to see, well, wait a second, was Bannon endorsing Moore back then? No, Bannon was still in the White House. And neither of the candidates in the Alabama race are good on, or were good on immigration. Luther Strange was a walking disaster. Roy Moore never cared about immigration. Even during the campaign, he was asked about DACA, and he said, "What's that?" Now, I would have trusted him to vote just to tick off Mitch McConnell, but neither of them were the Trumpian candidates. So unless both Trump and Bannon figure out that the reason for this divine intervention to put Donald Trump in the White House was about immigration. I mean, if Bannon wants to go support candidates against sitting Republicans, fine, but it better be on the issue of immigration. If it's just, I want to bust things up, and we're going to stick one to Mitch McConnell, he's going to lose. If he runs against Republicans who are bad on immigration with Republicans who are good on immigration, he's going to win.
And we've got to leave it there. Thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for giving the president good advice, by the way.
You're welcome.
All right, Ann Coulter, ladies and gentlemen, one of the greats.